Hey there, TRW crew. Matt Vassallo here with the RhinestoneWorld.com, and this is tutorial number 192 for the TRW Design Wizard version 3.0 Plus edition. So you do need the Plus upgrade for these features. So this is the Mockup Creator, okay? So in the Mockup Creator, you're going to see some areas at the top here where it says brightness, contrast, shadow, and midtones. And what these do is they just kind of change around a bitmap or a PNG or a JPEG image to make it maybe a little bit darker, a little bit lighter, and whatnot. Now I want to show you why you want something like that. So we have the different videos that show the auto boundary trace and the manual boundary tracer and things like that. And I want to show you sometimes why when you have the white background you don't get as good of results because there might not be as much difference. And then sometimes with the different colors and using the color change in the mock-up, some look a little better than others. So that's why we added these different buttons here to be able to change that around a little bit. So let me give you an example. I have a shirt here and I'm going to duplicate this shirt, okay? So let's just move the hat down here for now and move the two shirts over here. So we have these two shirts, and what we want to do with these shirts is I'm going to create two different versions of it, okay? Let's say one, I'm going to take the midtones and the shadows, and I'm going to make everything a little bit lighter, okay? So you can see, don't worry about the blue that you look, but you can see everything is a little bit lighter in. So when I go to do my auto boundary tracer of this and create auto boundary, it's going to run through the file and it sees and runs it actually still pretty good there, okay? So once I go back a few steps and let me go even lighter on our contrast, so you can see not quite as much. So see how there isn't as much difference between the actual areas there? So when I create my auto boundary tracer here, it only saw these dark areas up there, okay? So the trace is only going to see where it sees that difference in the actual tone and the kind of shading. So because there wasn't as much of a contrast between, it didn't do a good trace. So let's try it. I lightened it up a little bit more. Still not quite enough. So you're going to get different items and different shirts and different products that you try and do, and it might not trace it great. So with something like that, you have the option to change your contrast and shadow around a little bit to try and provide a little bit more of a difference in shading, which will help with the tracing. Or in some scenarios, you're going to have to do an actual manual B-spline trace, and that's why we have this option here. So let me show you the difference of this one. And it also helps when it comes to actually creating the shirt and changing the color. So watch. Let's just say I want to add a darker shadow to this one. And you can see how it's kind of turning blue a little bit. Don't even worry about that. That's going to kind of change back once we do the actual color change side of it. So we have two different looking shirts here. And I'm going to make this one maybe a little bit lighter. So change the brightness a little bit lighter. So let's trace both of these, okay? Create auto boundary trace. And that was a perfect trace. And let's create auto boundary trace on this one. That was a perfect trace as well, okay? So both of them trace great, but they're still going to look a little bit different once we create our cutout color change mockup. So watch, let's create the first one here. And that's going to create a new page for us there. And then let's go back and let's create the second one here. Cutout color change mockup. And that's going to create another new one for us. So I'm going to put both of these now on the same page so we can compare them next to each other. And I want to show you kind of what that shading did. So see how the one where we added the extra shading, it turned the shirt a little bit darker. So you can kind of see the different shadows a little bit more. So if I made both of these shirts yellow now, you can see this shirt right here maybe is a little too light. You can't really see the shadow in the armpits quite as much and the collar quite as much. Still looks pretty good though. Where on this one, you can kind of see those shadows and those midtones and the contrast and the brightness a little bit more because we did darken it up a little bit. So the brightness, the contrast, the shadow, and the midtones are basically just for you to be able to edit the actual JPEG or bitmap before you create it to that color change mockup, okay? And that's why you're going to get kind of a different look like these. And remember it was showing the blue when I was changing that, like around the box. Don't worry about that. Once you create it to the color change mockup and it knocks everything out like that, it's still going to look great. So once we go back to our actual area here and go back to our first page of page 1, there's our 2 shirts. See that blue area? Don't worry about that. That's not going to follow along with the shirt once you actually create the color change mockup. So the brightness, contrast, shadow, and midtones, just to edit your actual PNG, JPEG, bitmap file a little bit before you create it, just to try and make your mockups look just a little bit better. And sometimes those little bit of changes can be the difference between a sale and how good your mockups look. So hope you enjoyed this video on the mockup creator in the TRW Design Wizard version 3 Plus. If you do have any questions, make sure to give us a call. Number's 941-755-1696. This is Matt with the rhinestoneworld.com, and you guys all have a great day.